You should have seen the two of us when we were just getting started. We had 3 little kids, mostly in diapers, and we loaded them up in our Ford Bronco in the back seat. Susan was pregnant with our 4th child, Rachel, and then we proceeded, you might be able to picture this, and we drove across the country to Bozeman, Montana, where we started our new life together there. I fell in love with Montana 40 years ago, hiking in the mountains and in the backcountry. And Susan and I came here because this is where we wanted to raise our family. In fact, the house we moved into all those years ago is still the home that we live in Bozeman. It's where we raised our 4 kids, and it's where we started our small business, Right Now Technologies. See, back in the 90s, we had this idea that the internet removed geography as a constraint, and we had the opportunity to create a world-class business in a rural location. Now, people said, Greg, you can't do that in Montana. Susan and I talked about it and said, well, we'll just give it a try anyway. And you know that story. That company grew to over 1,100 employees with an average wage in Bozeman of almost $90,000 a year. And it was, and Oracle remains, the largest commercial employer in Bozeman. And the lesson from that story is really clear. When you combine a Montana work ethic with good leadership, anything is possible. And here's what's really amazing. As we created these high-wage jobs, it's undeniable that those jobs created other jobs in construction and in restaurants, real estate, and retail. And that prosperity got us more airline flights to more cities. In fact, in 2014, in Gallatin County was responsible for 40% of all the wage growth in the entire state. And I just want to say I am very proud to have been part of that success. I want to be clear, these jobs were created through innovation, hard work, and faith, not government programs or handouts. People have asked me why I'm exploring a run for governor, and that's really simple. Like many Montana parents, Susan and I would like to have our kids around the table on Sunday afternoon. And I personally would like to be able to go to my grandkids' ball games and recitals. But unfortunately, Montana ranks 49th in the country in wages, and too many of our young people are leaving to find opportunities. I want all Montanans to have opportunities for high-wage jobs. And I want to be able to, and I want to see them thrive right here in Montana. The reality is, though, Montana is facing some real challenges. Last year alone, we lost jobs in the Bakken. We lost over 500 timber jobs. We've lost jobs in mining and rail jobs. And this month, we saw nearly 100 Crow tribal members furloughed and lose their jobs. And it's all because Washington, D.C. is relentlessly assaulting our natural resources and state sovereignty. You see, in Washington, D.C., they think a prairie chicken is more important than your job. And at least one politician in Helena is too chicken to stand up to him. Unfortunately, there's more sobering news coming, both from the federal and the state environmental extremists. If Barack Obama's costly power plan is implemented, Montana will lose 7,000 more high-wage jobs. And every one of our electric bills will go up by 16%, while we take a $1.5 billion hit to our economy. This would be the single largest catastrophic economic event in Montana in over 30 years. Unfortunately, the Bullock administration takes its cue from Washington by continuing to deny and to delay job-creating permits, like in Otter Creek and the Bull Mountain Mine. Nearly 60 men and women recently had to tell their families they lost their jobs, and that was at Christmas time. I could go on, but here's the point. We need new leadership in Montana. On top of lost jobs, we've also got a governor who's failed to deliver on infrastructure. In Culbertson, today, the water bill for a single-family home is already $1,200 a year. And because of a lack of leadership in Helena, those bills are going up by 18% this year. But while the governor's failed to deliver on infrastructure, he has grown the size of government. In fact, he's increased it by 20% in just 3 years. Imagine if he had another 4 years to increase the size of government. Here's the legacy of the Bullock administration. First, costs for every Montana family are going up. Government's getting bigger, and jobs are going away. Working families are hurting, and those on fixed income are getting hammered. I'll give the governor credit for one thing, though. He's consistent. We've consistently been at the bottom in wages nationally. And honestly, if it wasn't for Mississippi, we'd be dead last. But we are dead last in income for millennials nationwide. And it's no wonder our kids have become our most precious export. You know, I think we've had enough. We've had enough of empty suits who are more worried about their job than your job. We've had enough of these political insiders whose policies are driving our kids out of the state. We've had enough of these bureaucratic caretakers who have left Montana stuck in the bottom in wages. And I'm here to tell you, Montana can prosper again. I'm an optimist, and I have confidence in the work ethic and ingenuity of Montanans. And I'm a businessman who knows how to create, attract, and retain high-wage jobs. I'm a pragmatist who believes in streamlining regulations and lowering taxes will energize our economy again. And probably most importantly, I'm a Montanan who wants Helena to have strong and innovative leadership. That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for the governor of Montana. In this election, Montanans will have a very clear choice. Stay with the current administration and expect more of the same, or change the way we do business in Montana. We'll focus on a positive message and bold ideas. Ours will be a campaign of opportunity and potential. And we owe this to all Montanans, especially our veterans who have served our great nation. We'll do it with a firm conviction that long-term, high-wage jobs are only created by the private sector, not by government. And we will win. As governor, I'll bring a new approach to Helena. First, I'll focus on removing barriers to creating jobs. And I'll do it in all sectors of our economy, starting with natural resources, right through to high technology. Next month, we're kicking off a regulation roundup to wrangle up all the job-killing regulations and practices statewide that are hurting Montana families. And if I'm elected governor, we'll put those regulations out to pasture. Second, I will fight every day to streamline government and lower taxes. Steve Bullock vetoed 3 tax reduction bills in this last session. And he did it while sitting on almost $500 million of overpaid taxes. That is your money. He did nothing to eliminate the business equipment tax. And it's sad, really, because he thinks it's government's money. Well, rest assured, I know it's your hard-earned money. Third, I will restore competency and accountability and a culture of customer service to state government. I'll appoint industry leaders to our state agencies and commissions. We have dedicated, hard-working state employees, but we need a business leader in charge of DEQ, and we need a landowner in charge of DNRC. And I've got an idea for you. How about at the Department of Labor, we appoint someone who's actually had an employee? You know, Steve Bullock's been a Helena politician his whole life, which may explain why he looked the other way when the state made 125 accounting errors. It's been called a $1 billion mistake. That should have turned heads. Yet no one got fired or even reprimanded. It's a stunning combination of incompetency and complacency. Fourth, I'll lead the charge to prepare our young people for the good-paying jobs of the future. A well-rounded education is imperative for all of our students. We have great schools and even greater teachers, but we can do more, especially for our rural communities. One example, Montana needs computer science in every high school. That's why I helped start the Code Montana program. Because if we don't teach our young people how to author technology, they're not going to be in control of their future. We also need to focus more on trade skills. And that's why we started the Gianforte Manufacturing Scholarship Program. Because not every young person has to have a 4-year degree to succeed in Montana. And I believe strongly that parents should have more say in how their kids are educated. My goal in education is to help every single child reach their full potential. And I think that's a goal we ought to be able to agree on. It's a goal we also have a moral obligation to pursue. And finally, I'll work to find ways to maintain the quality of healthcare in Montana, especially in our smaller towns, but also to reduce costs statewide. The Bullock-Obama one-size-fits-all approach is expensive. And given the double-digit rate hikes in healthcare we've seen just this past year in Montana, it's undeniable that it's not working. I believe we also have a responsibility to partner with our tribal communities for stronger economies on the reservations in Montana. I'm a sportsman and a lifetime member of the NRA. Last year, Steve Bullock vetoed 2 gun rights bills that passed both our House and our Senate. One would have stood up to the Obama gun grab, and the other one would have expanded concealed carry in Montana. He's clearly no friend of gun owners. If I'm elected governor, I will defend our Second Amendment rights. Now, you probably all know a ranch family or a farm family that's got 3 kids. And you know how the story plays out. 1 gets the farm, 2 have to leave. That's the tragic result we see in our rural communities around the state. But a concept called telecommuting can allow those other 2 kids to stay and thrive in Montana. In June of last year, I started promoting this concept to bring our kids back home again and help our rural communities thrive again. We mailed invitations to Montanans who were forced to work elsewhere, inviting them to come home and bring a job with them. And you know, Montanans do want to come home. Let me share a story with you that happened on my last trip to Butte. nice woman came up and gave me a big bear hug. And her name was Sue Hewlett. And she said, my daughter got one of your invitations. She was living on the West Coast. She sat down with her husband. And they talked about it. One said, honey, why can't we do this? And then Sue looked at me with a tear in her eye and said, my grandbabies are back in Montana now. To Sue and all Montana families who want to see their grandkids more than once or twice a year, I'll make a promise. I will wage an all-out campaign to put our families back together. Susan and I have been so blessed, and we're ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work serving Montana. When I'm elected governor, I'm pledging today to donate my entire salary to charity in a government scholarship fund, because that's one more way we can serve. So now I have a few questions for you, and I'd love to get your responses. First, will you join me in creating more high-wage jobs so our kids don't have to leave the state?
Yes.
Will you join me in rounding up burdensome regulations and lowering taxes so our economy can thrive again?
Yes.
Will you join me in bringing responsibility and a culture of customer service back to state government?
Yes.
And finally, will you join me in giving Steve Bullock a pink slip?
Yes.
Thank you. And I want to welcome you and all of the thousands of people across the state from all walks of life to our campaign. We need every one of you out there every single day, talking to your friends and neighbors, ringing doorbells, writing letters, and seeking every single vote. And I want you to be certain of this. I will campaign every day with the same determination that I can see in all of your eyes right now. And I will campaign with compassion as big as the big sky. God bless you, and God bless all of Montana.
Yeah.